Chapter 26, World War II. Section 5, Victory and Consequences. In the weeks after the successful D-Day invasions, hundreds of thousands of Allied troops landed in France, and they began their push towards Germany. First, they had to fight across France, and eventually Paris, the capital, was liberated in August of 1944. Then the Allies would push to other European countries like Belgium and Luxembourg to liberate them from German control. Hitler drafted every able-bodied male from about 16 to 60 for one last desperate attack on the Allies. This happened in the country of Belgium, near the city of Antwerp, in a forested area called the Ardennes. And the Germans were able to quickly push the Allies back about 65 miles, creating a huge bulge in the Allied lines that gave the battle the name Battle of the Bulge. If you're looking at the map, you see where the British and U.S. forces were attacking, but then were pushed back to about here. This is like the deepest part the Germans pushed back, and you can see the bulge there in the Allied lines, that bulge right there. That's why it was called Battle of the Bulge. But eventually the Allies will recover, and they will stop the German advance, and really ending any chance that Germany had of winning the war. In January of 1945, the Germans began retreating with heavy losses on both sides. So they start heading back into Germany. American losses were between 70,000 and 81,000 casualties, which is huge. But the Germans' losses were even greater, and Hitler's ability to wage a war, or an offensive war, was pretty much over with. Allied bombing raids started happening, and it devastated major German cities such as Hamburg and Berlin and Dresden. In April 1945, Soviet troops will enter Berlin. So the first Allies make it to Berlin. And at that particular point, you will see Adolf Hitler commit suicide rather than being caught by the Allies. And in May, President Roosevelt will die of a stroke. So two leaders in the war both die within about a month of each other. Germans will surrender on May 8, 1945. This day is known as VE Day, or Victory in Europe Day. The new president of the United States is Harry Truman. He was the vice president for Roosevelt, and he faced a challenge now that the European part of the war is over. The challenge now is to win the war in the Pacific. Now, when the Allied forces started liberating Europe from the Germans, they uncovered some evidence of horrifying crimes that the Nazis committed against humanity. This was a program known as the Holocaust, or mass murder. The Nazis attempted to exterminate the entire Jewish population in a program of mass murder. In January of 1942, Nazi officials met to plan out their final solution, if you will, for the Jewish people, and that was called, it was the idea of genocide, the final solution, or the extermination of a group of people. The Nazis stripped German Jews of their citizenship and seized their property. On a night called Kristallnacht, which means Night of the Broken Glass, many Jewish homes and businesses were destroyed. Jews who did not escape the country were imprisoned in these concentration camps in places like Dachau, which was near the city of Munich. Nazis forced the Jews and others, including Gypsies, Slavs, and other political opponents of the Nazis, into concentration camps. These concentration camps were oftentimes huge, and at first the Nazis forced the Jews into these kind of rundown parts or urban parts of cities called the ghettos, and others were sent to the concentration camps and used as slave labor. Many of them died from hunger or disease. Many Nazis formed these special killing units that rounded up the Jews and shot them and buried them in mass graves. Millions of Jews died in these concentration camps. the camps themselves were equipped with gas chambers that were designed to kill large numbers of people. If you weren't going to be sent in a firing line, you were sent to these gas chambers, which posed as a shower, yet instead of water, poisonous gas came out of the spigots. There were furnaces to cremate the victims' bodies if you didn't put them in a mass grave. In total, 11 million people were killed. 6 million of them were Jews. Now, during the course of the war, Allied scientists were developing an atomic bomb. Now, some say that they heard that Hitler was trying to create a nuclear bomb or an atomic bomb, and so Roosevelt wanted to be the first to create it. So they were developing an atomic bomb, which was a weapon that produces tremendous amount of power by splitting atoms, in a secret program called the Manhattan Project. Later on, when they finally tested one, the United States ordered the Japanese to surrender. And when they refused to surrender, President Truman made a threat saying, if you don't surrender, something bad is going to happen. Well, of course, they didn't believe him, so they didn't surrender. And so Truman will order the dropping of the first atomic bomb. On August 6, 1945, the B-59 bomber Enola Gay dropped an atomic bomb on the city of Hiroshima. That's the Enola Gay right there. It's the plane that dropped the Fat Man, the name of the bomb. That's the mushroom cloud that emanates from an atomic bomb. And that's what's left of Hiroshima right there. Pretty much nothing. The explosion killed 80,000 people instantly, and thousands more died from burns and radiation poisoning. Yet the Japanese leaders still refused to surrender. On August 9, 1945, 3 days later, United States forces will drop a second atomic bomb, this time on the city of Nagasaki. Again, there's the mushroom cloud, and that's part of Nagasaki right there. A third of the city was destroyed, and 22,000 people were killed instantly. So on August 15, 1945, Japanese surrendered, ending World War II. Now, many people debate whether the use of an atomic bomb was necessary. Truman thought it was necessary because there were some estimates that a land invasion or a sea invasion of the mainland of Japan would cost over 1 million lives. And so some suggest that's why he probably dropped the atomic bomb, so that he would save lives, American lives. Anyway, 50 million people overall were killed in World War II. That's all people combined, 50 million people. Huge number. The national economies in Europe and Asia were devastated, and millions of people were left without food, water, or shelter. That is the end of Section 5.